Daniel Ward sits in front of me tonight to discuss more than his on-field exploits during 10 years at the Melbourne Football Club. Sadly, the dashing defender's career is remembered more for his gambling problems along the way than the value of his marks, kicks and handballs. Welcome, Daniel. This isn't going to be easy.
No, I don't think you got me down here to go through my 100-odd games for the Melbourne Footy Club, but that's all right.
Let's talk the footy first. It was a pretty good career. I mean, you've 130-odd games, 10 seasons and the grand final in 2000.
Yeah, had a bit of luck and took my opportunity and managed to carve out a 10-year career at the footy club. So, yeah, it's what I wanted to do when I was a kid, so I achieved that.
Grand final didn't turn out quite as you would have liked. I mean, Melbourne went into that grand final having won 6 games in a row, so you were entitled to be optimistic, weren't you?
Yeah, we were very confident going into that. Obviously ran into a great side, but yeah, we backed ourselves in.
Now, when the ship goes down, it's every man for himself. You had 15 possessions. How did you play?
Yeah, I don't think any of us played all that well on the day, but yeah, so-so, I suppose.
So-so?
Yeah.
I thought you might have gone a fraction better than that. You played on Merckx, Mark McCurry.
Yeah, he kicked the goal, but yeah, it was a bit of an avalanche there at times. They were a great side, the Bombers, in that era of 2000. So yeah, wasn't a great day, and you know, great experience leading up to it, but not the result we were after. I'm
interested in your exit from Melbourne. It was 2007, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, you played 18 games.
Yep.
And averaged 18 disposals, and that was it.
Yeah, I was 30, I was out of contract, and Neil Danaher had been relieved of his job that year. So Dean Bailey was coming in, a new era, and look, Eddie Betts gave me a little going away present in that Carlton game. He kicked 5 on me, and that might have been the final nail in the
That was the last game?
Last game I played. And I look all right now, Eddie Betts ain't he's not a bad player now, but yeah, so, but that was okay. So Dean sort of said, oh, looking to get games in the young guys and going in a different direction, and I fully understand that, that's fine.
You'd remember that vividly because that's the end, and it probably came earlier than you thought. What did you think when you left that meeting with Bales and you said, geez, it's over, I'm Daniel Ward, private citizen again?
Yeah, shit, I'm in trouble now. That was my first, can I swear, Mike?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's hit me like a sledgehammer, and what do I do now? I hadn't really planned for, you know, I might look back and sounds crazy now, but yeah, I hadn't planned too much for what happened when it all ended.
How was the gambling problem at that time? How was your financial situation?
Yeah, not great. Not great. Yeah, not much to show for all the hard work and sacrifice. So yeah, it wasn't great.
Were you still in the grip of the punt then?
Probably up and down. Yeah, yeah, up and down. But yeah, the financial situation wasn't great at the end of my career.
When you say wasn't great, can you be more explicit than that? I mean, were you busted?
Yeah. Yep. That's an embarrassing thing to say, but yeah, that's the truth. Yep.
We'll stay with the footy for a bit longer. You're now with Haileybury.
Yep. Coaching
Old Haileybury. What section are they in?
So they're in the VAFA C grade section. Yeah. So loving it. Loving it. It's my first year at the club. Coaching only, so I've only just recently hung up the footy boots. And look, I love playing footy. I still had the bug, and I played with a lot of local clubs. So I was lucky to play with some fantastic local clubs in Mallee Eagles up in Swan Hill and Monbulk Footy Club in the Yarra Valley. Really enjoyed my time there, but yeah, the body's had enough.
When you talk to the Haileybury people about the coaching job, did they raise the gambling issue with you, or did you put it on the table?
I don't think it came up, no.
Didn't it?
No.
Are they aware of it?
Yeah, well, yeah. I think most people in the football industry are.
So it wasn't referred to? That must have been comforting for you?
Yeah.
Have you advised them that you lapsed last year?
No.
How do you think they'd cope with that?
Well, yeah, that's part of the process, I suppose, and yeah, it's an embarrassing part. But before I dealt with them and since, I haven't relapsed since that stage. No. So
you and I had a coffee recently. You talked about it, and you were like anyone I suspect that has an addiction, which you openly admit to. And you said to me, and you boasted proudly, that it was 222 days since that you'd been sober. I remember you using the word sober, even though we were talking about gambling and not drinking.
Yep. Yeah, look, for me, addiction's addiction. It doesn't matter whether it's alcohol, drugs, or for me, it's gambling. So, doing the right things to try and stay on track. Looking back on that time and why, I went down the wrong path again and relapsed. And what was
Sorry,
what
does the wrong path mean?
Well, the wrong path means that I chose to go back into bad habits and solve my financial difficulties with punting.
Because you'd been clean 6.5 years, hadn't you?
Yeah, probably a little bit less, but nearly 6 years. And for a 6-month period, so the start of 2016, I lost my way.
So I don't mean to make this too painful, but I mean, can you remember the circumstances of when you fell off the wagon?
Yeah, it's a combination. It's probably a combination of, and I've had to look at that in the last 8 months of being sober. It's probably a combination of a lot of things, personal issues, relationship stuff, financial pressures still there. Where I was working at the time, employment, and the industry I was in, and whether that was sort of conducive, the right industry for me to be in with a gambling addiction. So a lot of factors.
Did you go into a TAB or?
Yeah, I would. Yeah.
I can only guess at this, but how did you feel walking through the doors, knowing what you were doing? I mean, you're a rational, smart man, and you're walking into just the last place that suited your circumstances.
Crazy. I like to think I'm a rational, smart man, but in that, and look, with addiction, when you're in that headspace, you're not thinking too rationally.
Did you win or lose?
Oh, yeah, like the rest of the time. Yeah, lost. Might. Yep.
Mm. And that started a 6-month period.
6-month period. Yeah.
So how did you end? What point did you reach when you sort of said, I can't keep doing this?
And again, probably until someone helps drag you out, my addiction is it's a serious addiction. So until someone helps drag me out, and that was my wife and a few things and friends that they'd heard a few things, and whether someone spotted me going in or it was then I had to face it. And those questions were asked, had I been?
Yep.
Yeah, and I fessed up. And said
you fessed up straight away? There was, because you also said to me that when you're punting, there's a mask on.
Yeah.
Have you got this capacity to lie to people and just look them in the eye?
Your automatic reaction. Maybe I'm not sure whether it was a day or so that I might have reacted and lied and said that I wasn't, because that's your automatic reaction as a gambler. Unfortunately, you're a liar and not a nice person. So, but in the end, when the question was asked, I put my hand up and said that I'd been doing the wrong thing again, and I didn't have the courage. I think courage is the word to actually go to them or to go to anyone and say I'm battling. Because
you're on the past players committee at Melbourne.
Yep.
And the AFLPA, the Players Association, are now much more sensitive to the needs of their ex-players.
Yep.
There were avenues for you to explore, were there not?
Definitely. Yeah. And look, addiction, probably gambling addiction, it's one that, I'm part of doing this is that getting it out in the open. It's one that we sort of talk about, people, whispers and behind closed doors. Have you heard this guy? And this guy loves a punt, and I heard he's in trouble. And it's getting that message out, whether it's a football or whether it's just a citizen that I've had coffees with that are really battling with the punt, that there's ways to get help, but they've got to get it themselves, and they've got to have the courage to ask for that help. Tough thing to admit, but I didn't have the courage. I was a bit cowardly in that way.
You'd previously been to Gamblers Anonymous, hadn't you?
Yeah, yeah, I had. The thing with Gamblers Anonymous, sometimes it can get lost in it's a bit of a spiritual, and some people could see it as a bit of a religious program, and the 12-step program, that no matter what type of addiction, and I'm not a religious person as such, but I know it's worked for me the last 8 months, and it's worked for me in that period of the nearly 6 years that I had off as well.
Is that a weekly meeting?
Yeah. For me, especially early, I was trying to get to two meetings a week. And look, I'm not comfortable, as you know, Mike, when we caught up for a coffee, I'm not too comfortable talking about a lot of this stuff. But I suppose some of the people in Gamblers Anonymous have got some great insight and can help a lot of people and have some fantastic things that help me and you could bottle and help other people. But unfortunately, they don't have a voice. I have the opportunity. You wanted to do an interview with me, and even though I'm probably uncomfortable doing it, that I feel as though that can help people out there to tell my story. You've
got an addictive personality, obviously, haven't you? I mean, there's a part of you that's addicted to the punt, but is that a family gene thing, do you think?
Yeah, it is. It is, and I'm mindful not to talk too much about my family history, but rightly or wrongly, it's in my genes, and addictions. I've got an addictive personality, so I need to, be careful with. I don't drink a hell of a lot.
Your father did, didn't he?
He did, yeah. He did, and shot through at an early age. But again, I'm very conscious that I take full responsibility for my place in life where I sit now, and I'm all about moving forward. But when you go through and when you're trying to stay on the right track, you need to work out some reasons why about you are the way you are and how you got here, and it definitely played a role.
When did the problem... You tell me if this gets too awkward, right?
No, that's all right.
You know me, I'm just going to keep
that's all right.
prodding away. When did the problem first surface? When did you wake up one day and sort of say, I'm in a bit of trouble here?
Well, there was definite problems throughout my football career, but when you're earning decent money, you can sort of paper over those cracks, and probably my worst was after football finished, and you'd be doing the right thing for a while, and then some financial pressures would come along, and you'd go back to old habits, and there were some times where my family's been in dire straits a couple of times, and that's not something that I'm too proud of.
No.
But it was a period after my football career that it got pretty rough for my family.
I want to remind you of the open letter you sent to country football clubs a few years ago, of this quote. I was a gambling addict, I was a liar, I hurt any person I ever loved. I mean, that's a brutal self-assessment, isn't it?
Yeah, it's true. It's true. So part of trying to do the right thing and move forward is acknowledging that, and it's a true statement.
I remember reading where Brad Scott, the North Melbourne coach, said, correct me if I'm wrong, but that gambling was a bigger problem amongst the player group than the illicit drugs and the alcohol. Do you remember seeing that?
Yeah, I remember him saying that, yeah.
Do you agree with that?
Probably the short answer is yes, because I've got more experience and more first-hand knowledge with the gambling addiction side of it, and I don't know as much about the alcohol, and I've also been out of AFL land for 10 years.
10 years, yeah.
So, but I see it as a massive problem in society.
What do you think when you sit down and you're watching the footy, and you see all those ads for betting agencies? Do you ever ponder that or not, or is that just a fact of life?
I know it's a fact of life. I'm a bit of a realist that if you take that sponsorship away and from clubs, and life gets a little bit tougher for some people. But I'd be lying if I said it didn't. It didn't annoy me a bit, but it's a tough one, because it makes everyone else around me uncomfortable. My kids, my wife, and that's not the responsibility of the.
What makes them uncomfortable?
Right, if there's a gambling ad comes on TV and I'm sitting there and I'm looking at them, seeing whether they're looking at me, watching that ad. It's and look, that's a bit of an aside, but I don't like it. And I think the average person out there thinks it's being overdone, and I think the I think the thing is that it mightn't play out yet, but it's a normalisation for the kids and the next generation that troubles me. I've got 2 kids, and it's probably worrying a little bit. It saturates TV when you're watching it. It is everywhere.
Yeah. Do you think the AFL? What do you think of their stance on this?
Yeah, I think the AFL. I actually sent an email to Mark Evans before he got the role at Gold Coast.
Who was the footy boss at the AFL? Yeah.
Yeah, and Mark got back to me. He was great and got back to me. I just said I want to help and willing to do anything I can. I think we might be losing the battle a little bit, and Mark got back to me, and I'm due to catch up with the AFLPA. I think the clubs and the players are handling it, taking a little bit more of a role in that and looking out for their teammates. But it's definitely an issue, yeah, for sure.
Can I take you back to 2003? I think it's the biggest headline you generated in your distinguished career.
Yep.
You remember the story about players gambling on football in the papers? I think it was The Age, wasn't it? Was it?
Yeah, I had 2, so it depends which one you're talking about.
Yeah. There was a story about you, David Schwartz.
Yep.
Was Travis Johnson involved in that?
Yeah, I think that was It wasn't gambling on football. That was more horse racing.
But you did gamble on football, didn't you?
That was a separate occasion, yeah.
Separate
occasion. That's where there was 2. So there was the owing money to bookmaker. That was the first one. And
was that 50 grand?
Oh, that was the figure spoken about. Yeah.
Was it the correct figure?
Oh, roundabout.
Okay. Yeah. And you didn't have it. You couldn't pay it.
No. So again, another embarrassing thing. The second one was gambling on AFL footy. I think there was a few other people. I think it was, at that time, I think it was Kieran Jack, Simon Goodwin.
But Kieran Jack had $10 on it.
Yeah, and they come down on him pretty hard, I'd say. So,
but you and Simon Goodwin and David Schwartz clearly had major problems with punting.
Yeah. I at that stage, you look back at it now and you think, you must be crazy to gamble on AFL footy. At that stage, I think I'm not sure of the numbers of how many times. It might have been 3 or 4 times where I'd put Melbourne in a multi-bet and just trying to boost odds and, But you're not thinking, again, like I spoke to you before, you're not thinking sanely. It seems crazy now to, why would you do something like that? And I ended up with a big fine out of it. And
so you got fined 10 grand by the AFL. I think, this is my memory, 18 bets worth $3,000 odd.
Yep.
And they fined you 10 grand and suspended 5.
Yep.
Correct?
Yeah.
Did you ever bet against Melbourne, Daniel?
No, I don't believe I did, no.
No. Tell me about the feeling. Take me to a place I've never been. You're running down the race, you've got no money, and you've invested in the outcome of football matches. What sort of pressure is that?
To be honest, I wasn't really thinking of that. I'd probably put a multi on a Friday or something like that and chuck us in for an odds boost, but I wasn't.
But when you say that, and I admire your honesty 100%, but you had more than $3,000 in bets on footy.
Yeah.
So there's a few multis there. You must have had a few reasonable straight-out bets, did you?
No, I don't reckon I had a straight-out bet.
So they're all multis?
Yep.
Totalling $3.5 grand?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So did you play a football game under the pressure of the punt?
Oh, yeah. Not having gambled on the game, but I played plenty of football. Where it got to, Mike, was my situation. Something I always wanted to do was play AFL footy, and I was coming to training and, to a lesser extent, game day, to turn my phone off and escape all the, whether it's debt collectors or, it's that's an embarrassing thing. It's something that you look back on not very fondly, and I know you say I beat myself up a bit, but that's the truth. That's what I was, and but that being said, I've got to move on. I've got to move on with the rest of my life, and
we have dwelt on that. I understand that, but I think it's, given that you've agreed to talk about this in the interest that it might help some others. Yeah. I think the detail's important.
Oh yeah.
One of the things you said to me, which I was really taken with, the metaphor about when you finished a gambling spree or a gambling period, and you'd look at the damage, and you said it was like a cyclone.
Yeah.
You're looking back and you're sort of saying, what happened here?
Yeah. You got to fix up the mess, and that's still the case. That's still the case. Yeah, like obviously someone that's gambled for that long isn't in the same financial position and can't offer the same things to his kids and family that someone that wasn't doing that over that period of time. So yeah, that's a constant daily occurrence.
What's the low point, Daniel, in the context of the gambling? Was there a phone call or a day or a loss?
Probably too many to pinpoint one. It's probably been a couple. Low point was when I did go to. It got to a stage where I had an intervention and went and sought help and spent a month in an addiction clinic, and that was back in 2010. That set me on my path for nearly 6 years off. But probably fresh in my mind is the period early last year up until sort of 8 months ago.
Because you thought you were through it?
Yeah, I hoped I was through it, yeah. And I'd made statements and promises and all that type of stuff. What I know now is there was warning signs along the way, and I didn't do anything about that. And sooner or later, and again I've seen it firsthand with gamblers that I'm working with at the moment, and trying to help, that if you're not doing the right things, this addiction it'll grab hold of you.
Are there any signposts that you would say to people going down the same path that where the alarm bells just ring and you sort of say, I've got to stop now or I'm headed for trouble?
It's once you start lying and keeping secrets and keeping stuff from family and obviously finances, and people go without food. And
did that happen to you?
Yeah.
You did tell me one day you couldn't put petrol in the car.
Yeah, that's happened before.
You must
Pretty
feel
embarrassing.
Well, you must feel absolutely forlorn, as if sort of hopeless almost.
The mindset of a gambler, Mike, is if you've got $20 in your wallet and you need to, I don't know, whether it's pick up dinner or put petrol in your car, pick up dinner, and you need 100. Well, the mindset of a gambler when you're in that phase is, let's try and turn it into 100.
Even though your track record wasn't all that good.
Yeah, but you're not thinking sanely, Mike. You're not, and that's where I need to be hyper vigilant now.
Yeah.
My wife plays a great role in that, in calling me out, and she's seen all the signs of.
So does she trust you with cash?
To a point, yeah, because I have to survive. So the thing with if you got a drug or alcohol addiction, it's probably separate. But with cash, it's the money. You still got to live and survive.
Yeah.
And but I wouldn't say my wife fully trusts me now. No, not at all. And probably people close to me. And there's, in the relapse when it happened, there's a close group of people, family and friends that I confided in, and that was really difficult. And I've lost their trust. But what can I do? I can only look forward.
Of course, you can't change what's happened. But have you lost anyone that was important to you because of the gambling?
Yeah, I have. But not just that. It's damaged the relationships of the people important to me in my life. Those people are, my wife and 2 kids, and my family, close friends. I think those relationships have been tarnished for sure.
Can I ask you about your mum?
Yeah.
Yeah. Your mum's. You're still close to her?
Yeah.
Yeah. Your mum was 16 when she had you?
Yep.
So you grew up in a broken home.
Yep.
She must have been very important in your life. So when this happened, how do you sort of explain to her?
Yeah, I think she's been through, like my wife, she's been through the ringer a fair bit. You spoke about my history and, being on the front page of the paper for gambling issues, and she's been fantastic. Brought up my sister and myself with, you know, we'd work 2-3 jobs, and you know, she's been great. And I guess in that 6-year period, she didn't have to worry about me. I was on the right path, and then going back and starting again, she probably worries about me a bit now, and you know, and that again is a fair bit of guilt, but yeah, she's been fantastic and a great support, and has had to do it tough herself.
Do you ever hear from your father?
No.
Does that hurt you?
No. I've dealt with it. I've dealt with it a while ago. It is what it is. But I've had a few other things with father figures happen, and happened to me again a while ago with my stepfather as well. Shot through. So yeah, I haven't had great father figures in my life, and
Yeah, I think you're entitled to a share of better luck along the way, though.
yeah, but that's, you know, I've got my own family now, so I try and concentrate on being the right. And again, the shame and being hard on myself is probably to do with that a little bit. That you know, I'm affecting them. I like to consider myself as a good father, as a great father, and I think I am. But all this stuff overshadows it sometimes.
What about your dialogue with Neil Danaher, Daniel? You are very close, and Neil's fighting his own battles, which we know about.
Yeah.
So do you talk about each other's problems with each other?
The thing with Neil gets asked, and he'd get asked every day how he's going, and so I've caught up with Neil a couple of times, and we just try and talk about other things and footy and all that type of stuff. I think he's going well, but you know, I couldn't believe when I was battling last year that he reached out to me, and you know, for, you know, what he's going through. Everyone knows Neil's story. You know, it says a fair bit about the person. I'm probably closer to him now than when I was a player. He used to give me a couple of sprays. So, but yeah, to reach out and he sent me a text about my life, and to concentrate on looking forward and have perspective, and I read that on a daily, weekly basis. It's it says a lot about the person to do what he did for me last year.
I mean, I'm full of admiration for you, truly. I know you've had an issue and you've wrestled with it, and you're man enough to talk about it and address it, and hopefully there's a few people who will benefit from your brutal honesty today. It's great to catch up with. It's a story that needed to be told, and you've done it beautifully.
No worries. Thanks, Mike. Cheers.